My objective in the first hour and a half or so is that you walk away with something that is entirely yours. And this is about, in fact, is about your integrity as leaders in work, of course, but it will, I believe, once this is kind of fully lined up, then be pervasive to some of the other aspects of your life. You now know your values. You now have a sense of what you stand for in an idealized kind of way. You know what you stand for in terms of your vision and where you're coming from into that vision. You know what your values are in terms of you personally and where you're focusing on. Integrity for me is how we live our lives in line with our ideals, in line with what we stand for. And what I want to talk about is how we, in fact, work constantly to keep our pipes clean towards those commitments. Because the world out there is conspiring to bring us down and reduce that level of integrity. Very often when we speak of, in 5 years, 500 million or whatever the objective is, you sit back and you say, whoa, this is going to be tiresome. This is going to be burdensome. And yet it's entirely the opposite that we're looking for. We're looking for people that are going to be charged up and that approach their work in a different way. So you can see work looking like this. It's kind of in the muck and it's whipping away and it's hard work, right? And what we want to try to go to is work that feels more like this. Did you hear the car? So what we want, what we're looking for is the sense of achievement. It's getting out of the muck. It's getting into a place that's exciting, a place that's fun, that's in fact releasing energy, where you're building energy and not leaking out energy. The first absolutely essential thing, as you've all seen on the values map and all of that, is that each of us considers ourselves to be a business of one, a self-standing entity for whom the development of capabilities is what you own and what creates security, what brings to your family the fulfillment of their aspirations over time. Japanese neuroscientists have done some work that tells us that the present only lasts 12 seconds. So anything that's before 12 seconds is the past. Anything that's talking about referring to 12 seconds is the future. So sometimes we look at the present as though it's this wide. Well, the present is actually quite narrow, right? So you're either in the past or in the future. So it's almost kinesthetic. I mean, when you look at this, you say, okay, this is the present, and I can look at the world as being in the past. What I want to talk about is what happens when we go through events that unmistakably will take you down. It's about how we detect those events, how we relate to other people, and how we keep our commitments in line with our aspirations. So, performance, and we could spend time on these other elements, but performance is made out of 3 elements, very simply. One is focus, and focus is about being clear about what we're going to accomplish. So for instance, when Charles was saying we did some thinking about 5 years hence, and this is what we're going to do, focus is about going out there and not listening to reason. It's almost like saying, if everything were possible, what is it that I could do? I, in my own image, thought that the agents that were dressed the part were probably more successful. Like they'd show up, little handkerchief done, But I learned very soon that what they looked like had nothing to do to their performance. Because some looked good and did very well, but actually relatively few. Because some worked really hard at looking good that were absolutely mediocre in terms of performance. right? And their clothes became their badge of success. That as a way of disguising the difficulties they were having. We all have a way of disguising, right? And very often our past success can we hide behind to disguise, in fact, the fact that we're off breakthrough, we're into breakdown.